Welcome to the garden I've dreamed of, where wisdom gathers, where grandmothers listen, and their voices collective weave hope for generations. Can I tell you my favorite place? It's where stories are told through the skill of our wonderful Sandra Lobb. Can you hear the echoes of their experiences resonating with yours? I invite you to explore them. What a joyous time it has been for me. What a joyful gift we can bring to each other and to the mothers and the children yet to come on our precious home, here on our dear Mother Earth.
Marilyn Shannon is a wearer of many hats, and I see we buy from the same glasses, people, the readers that we love, right? She is a speaker, she's an author, she's a life and business coach, a superior court mediator, social media influencer, and facilitator. She describes herself as a stigma squisher and compulsive listener. Marilyn is also the founder of Women's Power Networking and PRISM, which stands for People's Recovery Initiative for Solutions and More, which is leading the way across North Carolina on the path to wellness, mental health issues, stigma, and education about substance use disorder and recovery. That's a lot. And very necessary. She is a #1 best-selling author for her book series In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of, and you'll tell us who those cohorts are. It's called In Just One Afternoon, Listening into the Hearts of. Marilyn, welcome. Please tell us where you're speaking from now and about these programs you lead, the books you've written, and what you have in store for us. What is the title of your program, if you have one, for Tending Our Roots? Your program is noon Eastern Standard Time on December 20th. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I love the floor. Thank you so much. And yeah, I love your glasses. I am in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am a New York person, but I've been living here for 50 years. I forgot how to count it. And all through my career, and even as a child, I have always felt a heartstring to people who just don't get their due. People who for some reason find it hard to ask a question or to share a voice. And I've always been the person who wanted to help them because everybody gets to talk. We have a voice. Everybody gets to share. And there's so much upset around that I feel a kinship to wanting to help break it down and help people really see what is laying between us and how we can do better with each other and share more love and all of that. And so conflict is a thing that stands in our way, and yet it can be a beautiful thing. And I have found that conflict is intrinsic in so many things, whether it's how we look at ourselves. There's a conflict in how we see ourselves truly. There's issues there. There's a conflict in our relationships, whether it's with our partner, our husband, our wives, our children. There's conflicts at work. There's conflicts everywhere. It's a part of life. There's a conflict when you go into the grocery store and you don't find what you want. How do you respond? And I feel like we've been invisible. We're creating an invisible society because we're hiding behind all these things. We're hiding behind our conflicts. We're hiding behind our pain. We're hiding behind the joys. We don't even allow ourselves to feel good. If we feel good, it must be our ego. It isn't. You're allowed to feel good. So I've taken all of this stuff and I've just put it into books, because how do you break this stuff down? Well, it's how we look at each other. So my books, In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of, I take subjects that I feel are invisible, whether it's a person, a community, a philosophy. So the first one was men, then it was twins. And I'm going to go into all of this when I talk more. Then it was millennials. And listen, they're not all in the basement. And if they're in the basement, they're there for a reason. There's reasons for a lot of things. The next one was people impacted by opioid addiction, which turned me on to PRISM. And then it was Black fathers. It's a community of men that they haven't done very well with themselves, but they want to do better. So I take all of that and listening, because listening is like breath. If we don't listen, we're going to die, just like if we don't breathe. And listening takes us to understand people. It takes us to understand ourselves. It allows us to understand what's going on here on some level. And then we take it deeper. So everything I do is connected. It's just, I do it in different ways so that everyone that I can be in contact with can reap the reward of something, because we learn and we experience life in different ways. Some people are great reading, not everybody. That's why I'm an influencer. I'd be delighted to sit on my chair and just read books. But I got things to say, and I got things to listen to, because not everybody can say what they want. So I'm a talker and I'm a listener. I'll share what I listen to, but I'm also gonna listen for what other people are having a hard time sharing. And that's me. And I do it in videos, and I talk about it here, and I'll talk about it there, because we all are dealing with this. Nobody is excluded. And so when we talk about conflict, which is a big thing to talk about, and it's important, because we don't need to run away from it. We need to deal with it. And I would like to see us all deal with it and get along. And it's going to be here. And we can run away from it, but you can't run far, because wherever you run, it goes with you. So I want to help. I want to help people understand conflict. I want you to understand the energy about conflict, because it's all it is. For my dear grandmas, it's energy. That's it. It's an energy. And we're going to talk about the woo-woo, and we're going to talk about the practical. So come talk to me, right? On the 20th, anything you have to say, I can come with a plan, but you come with a plan and I'll follow your plan. You come ask questions, you come talk to me, and we'll have an open dialogue. I got lots to share, but I'll lay it all away for you, because you come. Bring your family, bring your children, bring your colleagues. If you got a problem or an issue, come bring it to this, and we'll talk about it.
That's a great idea. Invite your workplace members, your people you hang with at the Y, whatever it is, you have practical solutions for it. Marilyn, thank you so much. We're looking forward to it on December 20th at noon.
At noon.
I'm going to press the right button.
Good morning. I'm Victoria Savage, and I am with the Global Grandmothers Council Network. And we have created Grandmother's Garden. We are a group of women helping one another by listening, by allowing talking, by teaching, by offering our gifts. And we do that through our website, globalgrandmotherscouncil.org. We've created that from the group we had on Facebook, we still have, that grew so quickly. We became very aware of the fact that we needed an easier, better way to connect, because Facebook is kind of chaotic and we had no control over where things showed up and when they showed up. So we've created Grandmother's Garden. And we will, at the end of this broadcast with Marilyn Shannon, have a QR code and our website so that you could come check us out. You can join for free and take advantage of classes, of Zoom every day, where you can just be heard. So much healing happens when we are listened to and when we can voice things. You know, the Hopis had a saying, when the grandmothers speak, the earth will heal. And this is where we are headed. We are helping the earth to heal. So I invite you, if Marilyn's message resonates with you at all, to move over to grandmothersglobalcouncil.org and check us out. And now, without further ado, let me bring on for you Marilyn Shannon, a compulsive listener.
Thank you, Victoria and Sandra and Mayana and One Divine, who is in the background. Thank you all very, very much. It's really a pleasure to be here. I am so happy to talk about conflict. You would think I'm nuts, but I love it, and I didn't always. So let me just tell everyone who's listening, please feel free to comment, ask questions. If you have a story, share it. We're going to be here together for about a half hour. That ain't much. So the personal stories that I will share and the personal stories that you might have that you can share, or anyone else in here, will resonate more than just if I give you a list of things, right? You're going to feel something greater as you listen into these stories. So as I said, I never liked conflict growing up. I was the people pleaser. I was the one who wanted to make nice with everyone. I wanted to fight my mother's battles, this one's battles, that one's battles. I always wanted to help, and I hated it. And so I, in my career, became a special ed teacher because I was between things and I didn't know what I should do next. And I thought, I was in North Carolina, but I'm from New York. I'm street. Then I could go in and teach special ed. I can take on these behavior disorder kids, the kids in the gang. I grew up with gangs, right? Oh my God, was I in for a rude awakening. It was the worst experience of my entire life. I hated the system. I hated how the process. When I would go into these mediations as a new teacher who wasn't a teacher by trade, just somebody who was a communicator, I was appalled at how people were not communicating, not asking questions, how people were not listening to the answers that were coming at them. I was appalled at how people came in with an agenda. And that is a big no-no. The agenda should be very simple when you come into a conflict or some kind of relationship blow up. You want curiosity, but don't come in with, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to get. Not initially, because when you come in with that, you don't hear anything else. You only hear your agenda. So I was horrified, and I would watch what was going around the table, and I would think to myself, nobody is asking the right questions. Nobody is helping the families be comfortable. Nobody is saying anything to the school system and asking, well, why do you feel that way? Or why don't you want to pay for that? I mean, it wasn't being done. And so I decided to become a Superior Court mediator, to mediate special ed in particular. And I did. I did it while I was teaching. I went and I did the whole process, which was kind of crazy. And I started to mediate more. And then when I left the school system, I started to mediate special ed, and I mediated some other kinds of business-related things through the organization that managed the mediators. And then I joined a nonprofit called the Association for Conflict Resolution. And it was all mediators and peace people. And everybody was like me. Nobody liked conflict. Everybody wanted to make nice and love and connection and sweetness and all of these things. None of us liked it. And then all of a sudden, it started to really dawn on me the power we have in connecting with each other. And conflict is just a layer of yuck. It's an energy. It's a buildup of people's history. It's a buildup of where people came from. It's a buildup of, people who feel less than. We spoke about my books. That was a big deal for me in building out this notion of conflict, is to help people be more visible. Because how can we heal conflict if people don't feel like they have a voice? the conflict just grows into more conflict, into more yuck, into more murders and disillusionment of families and businesses that go under. Conflict arises not just between a person, but it could be a product that's not working right. You got to be able to know how to dissect it. And I started to love conflict. I started to see it like an adventure. Like, how can I help these people come together? How can I help a relationship heal? How can I help people come up with some kind of resolution that is good for their family or their business? And so I started down that road, but I didn't realize how much people didn't like it besides myself. I didn't realize how much people ran away from it. And as I began into this journey, I didn't focus my work on saying, I'm a conflict resolver. I'm a coach. Conflict comes in, I'd work it there. I'm a listener. I would teach people about listening or remind them how to listen. And we're going to talk a little about that too. But I didn't focus on conflict until recently. And it was after the election when I started really listening in on people who voted opposite sides of the track within families and people angry with each other and not finding a way to communicate, not finding a resolution about, okay, you voted this way, I voted this way, but don't we want something the same? Isn't there a way that we can communicate? And I was like horrified when I heard somebody talk about working for her partner's business. She was obviously part of the LGBTQ community, and her partner's business was something with equine management, and most of their clients were conservative women. And this woman was pissed off at all conservative women and didn't want to do anything with them. And I was like, okay, I understand that. I'm pissed off at some of them too. But we don't know what shoes they're walking in. We don't know, maybe some of them have been abused. Maybe some of them are living under the thumb of someone. Maybe a lot of them haven't been taught, like some of you out there, on how to speak up for yourself. They weren't given the same tools. So we have to be loving and caring. Otherwise, conflict's just going to blow up in our face. And so recently I decided everything I do is all part of conflict. So I'm going to focus on that because it's not, again, something people want to talk about. And I posted a video on Instagram where I have been an influencer trying to make a difference. And of course, it's been about conflict, but I haven't used the word. I've used other words. I've danced around it myself because I'm like, well, conflict's negative, conflict's this, conflict's that. Even though it's so great, it still comes off as being negative. People aren't going to listen to me. And so I shouldn't talk about it, but I stopped. And now I talk about it plain and clear. And several months ago, I posted a video from Am I the Asshole? I don't always say the asshole. I sometimes say, am I the whatever? But it's the AITAs, and they're written by people who are in a conflict of some sort. And they're really interesting stories. They're surreal, but they're so real, they're surreal. And they're so surreal, they're real. And there was one I posted about this woman who was on a business trip, and she had an affair while she was on this trip. And she supposedly was in love with her husband, had a great marriage, was thrilled, all this kind of stuff, but had an affair. So what does she do? She comes home and she tells him the truth. My video stream blew up because people were saying she should never have told the truth. That's, my friends, what we're dealing with. People don't want to tell the truth. And that is a shanda. That's a mess. We got to be able to tell the truth. Why are we not telling the truth? What are we afraid of? And we may not realize everything, but we got to know people are scared. I mean, if you know people are already scared, it's easier to go into a conflict for you when you're dealing with it, when you know more about conflict. I was horrified at how many people said she should have lied. no matter what. And I was listening to all these comments and I was like, oh my God. So I had to do another video that dispelled this idea of lying is okay, because lying is not okay. I mean, this woman, having had an affair, did the absolute right thing in telling her husband the truth. Now, he didn't like it. He wanted to leave and was, all those things, but she did the right thing, because having lied would have made this even worse, bigger. It means she's carrying this with her wherever she goes. And when you lie, you think other people are lying too. So how do you ever have a relationship that is not built on truth? But hundreds of thousands of people said she should lie. So I tucked that away a lot. And I tucked away a lot of other comments. And I'm like, okay, we got to talk about this. And then I also just recently went through a lot of eye issues. And I had a cornea transplant. And I also realized when people would call me up and I would say something, I could hear in their voice their reluctance to talk anymore, their reluctance to hear anything about the situation with myself. And so I put two and two, I was in bed a lot. I put two and two together and I'm like, okay, people don't want to talk about conflict. They don't want to talk about pain. And we know people don't even want to talk about joy, because if you talk about joy and you tell somebody you're joyful and you're happy, they're going to look at you like, huh? Are you in your ego? It can't be real. But we need to make all this real. And we need to expose conflict for what it is. So it's a difference of opinion. It's historical, where somebody came from. It's how they were brought up, in what they saw in their life. I mean, I saw some abuse in my life. So if you don't think for 1 second I grew up angry or scared of men, you're wrong. I used to drive in a car, and if I looked at a man straight on and he looked at me and he was in the other car, I'd turn away and look down. So all of these things build us into who we are. And now it's time to break that stuff down and get to the truth of who we really can be. And conflict is a way to do it. Conflict, we have to own it, we have to love it, and we have to make friends with it. And how do we do that? Number one, you got to listen. Listening is the most important thing we could ever do. And you heard me say in the introduction that without breathing, we're going to die. It's the same thing without listening. If we don't listen, we're not going to die. And I don't just mean on the surface either. I mean deep. I mean, as you listen, your listening information takes you deeper. And then you hear something, and then that takes you even deeper. And then you hear something else, and maybe you have to go off into space for a while, and you have to practice it. But then you come back, and the listening helps you come back. Listening is our everything. It moves us closer to people. It takes us away. It lets us know when we're safe. It is what we do with our ears. It is what we do with our eyes. It is what we do with our mouth, with our nose. Everything around us is telling us something. Every situation, every nuance, everything. And so the more you tune in and you create a listening practice, the better it is. So what is a listening practice? It means be aware. Awareness is listening. Be aware. When you see something, you're listening for what you see. You're dissecting it. You're looking at it. You're telling yourself what it is. Listening is the biggest. It's the kahuna sense that we have, and I am only who I am because I've listened. It's like it pulls me into this room. It pulls me over here. It takes me over here. It tells me what I'm supposed to do next and what I shouldn't do. And it tells me when I should do it again. Listening, there's an invisible line of connection between each and every one of us. We know it instinctively. We know it energetically. And it's all well and good to know something energetically. It's all well and good to know something instinctively. But what do you do with it? How do you make it work? How do you use your instincts and your energy to be able to impact someone, some things, or the world around you. You got to put it into practicality. It's one thing to see the dream. It's another thing to get the steps to the dream. And listening into this line of connection between us all helps us do that. So on this line, what do we, when we're working with somebody trying to resolve a conflict, listen for the connection, listen for the relationship. What's on there? Listen for the, like Sandra said when we first started it, she and I wear the same glasses. That is a connection. That will help us eliminate, alleviate any conflict. That just puts us on the same playing field. That's what we want to do. We want to help people get to the same playing field. So listening to this connection, this line of connection is huge. You know, babies feel it when they're born. They feel that innate connection to their mother. People feel it. It's a heart sensation. You can't deny it. You can run away from it, but you cannot deny it. It exists. So when we work with this line, it helps us understand people even more. So the line is very important in resolving or at least understanding conflict. Conflict, you know, I could sit here and talk a whole bunch about a lot of things. But when you're dealing with conflict, it's a game that you have to dissect. You have to, I mean, and use it for the relationships that you want to. You can resolve so many things, but you got to dissect the things that you're seeing along the way and question them. So I often tell people, when you're faced with in a relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, a family member, or a colleague, come into the relationship, especially if it feels disjointed, come into it with curiosity and love. You cannot go wrong with curiosity and love. Yes.
I wanted you to explore a little bit more of something you said, because it's very much kind of what I will do with people is finding a common thread to bring us together. And, you know, work I do is very much with the energy. And you talked about that in your introduction about who we are. But like you and Sandra commented on the glasses, that it was just a common thing. And I love that you brought that in, that because we are more alike than we are different. And finding that is, like, I would think, in your opinion, one of the best keys for beginning to resolve a conflict is finding out how we're the same rather than different. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, conflict separates us.
Yeah. And that seems to be in the world, and what's going on in the world, not just our country, is we are being prompted to stay separate, to stay divided, and to stay at one another instead of move with one another. Because in my opinion, then they control us.
Absolutely.
You know, as we're more individual and less a group power, they have more control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's real. The situations that we're experiencing is real. But you know, there is nobody we can't talk to. Nobody. I don't care who they are. Honestly, I mean, throughout this whole episode with the election and all the stuff going on, I mean, I've written to MSNBC, I've written to different journalists, I've written to, but when you know that there's pain and there's hurt. So understand that when you're dealing with conflict, there's resentment, there's fear. I mean, you know, we have two main emotions. We have love and we have fear. Everything positive and helpful and all that stuff, joy, appreciation, comes from love. Everything else is fear generated. Just know it. That's the crux of conflict, is fear. But know it. It's the elephant in the room, but it doesn't have to take over. Yeah. If you are aware that people are running away and lying because they can't face truth, then those of us who are peacemakers, those of us that are willing to take this on, take it on with love. Go into those situations and it's going to be messy. But it's funny because once you start to tell somebody, oh, I understand how you feel, and I hear you. That's all. I mean, it's not that much. You really don't have to do that much. It's almost, and sometimes I sit back and I'm like, okay, people bring me these conflicts, right? People bring me these stories to help them, coach them through it. And we have to listen. I have to want to listen to the personalities of people that they're talking to. Where have they come from? What I want to know what their story is. I want to know, what they do, what they eat. I want to know a lot of things about them, because once you listen into those things, you can hear it. And then that's what you address. So did that answer what you were?
It did. And I really wanted to bring back the fear and the love. I've been a nurse many years, and in the hospital, we get those patients that, oh my God, every 5 minutes they were on the light, on the light, on the light. So finally, you'd take 10 minutes and you'd go in and you'd start listening. And it always was fear about what was going on or what was going to go on. And the moment you took just the few minutes to explain to them whatever they needed to know, then they were peaceful. And that's really the same thing you're saying, is once we understand the other's fear, number one, we can care about them because, we can identify that with that. And then when you address the fear and make it valid for them instead of dismissing it, people feel heard, and people then buy into the fact that we are more alike than we are separate. So that was,
when I was decided to do because people learn and experience things in different ways. I mean, some people learn through visual, some people learn through talking, some people learn through just whatever. We all learn differently. We just need to be more understanding. We are all alike, but we come to it with different experiences. So we need to work on being more patient with each other and more understanding, because I don't know whose shoes you're walking in today. I don't know, where you came from yesterday. And just understanding that we are, on some level, we're all a little fragile. I posted something yesterday I posted something on Facebook about understanding greed. It's fine to try to band-aid greed and blame greed, but it's not greed. Something comes before greed. And that's what we need to listen for. What has come before somebody has slammed the door in your face? Now, you get to pick and choose if if that is a scenario or a relationship that matters to you and you want to address it. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's something over here that's more important. You don't have to address every bit of conflict that comes across your desk. But address something. Address some. Start to practice on some. When I posted this thing on greed, I said, can you describe to me where greed is coming from? So it's coming from insecurities. It's coming from the same things we're talking about. So what are we going to do? We're going to fix an insurance company? We got to fix the problem. We have to fix the insecurities that people are walking around with. I mean, we got to get to the crux of the problem. Otherwise, we just continue to band-aid and what people don't understand. We need to fix people and how they fix, or whatever word we want to choose, to heal that part of people and bring people together. And that's what understanding conflict will help. Because this is all, we're in conflict with ourselves. And that's a big deal. We're in huge conflict. I mean, if you can't feel your own pain, you can't feel your own joy, then we're in trouble. We got to be able to talk about pain, joy as a part of life, and here you go. And Einstein said, which is one of my all-time favorite quotes, is you can't solve a problem on the same level. You got to rise above it. In our case, sometimes you got to go beneath it, but you got to go somewhere. You can't mirror the mess. That is not going to help anybody. You got to understand the mess isn't going to kill you. Conflict's not going to kill you unless we don't deal with it. That's the only thing. You can run away from it, you can hide, but it's not going anywhere. And when you deal with conflict, you know, it's interesting. There was a bunch of men at my grandson's bar mitzvah, a bunch of people, and I was very happy, right? I'm like hostess down the line, but I feel very much a part of making this thing, and my grandson and my daughter was involved. I made a point, for some reason, of talking to a lot of men there. And a lot of these men that I spoke to are in some form of transition. And these were men that I didn't want to talk to before. But I felt some sense of power at this bar mitzvah. And so I just started talking to all these men, my daughter's friends, my son-in-law's friends that I tend to run away, well, I used to run away from. You should have seen, man, they were like, couldn't talk to me enough. And I just give people a chance. Just like the song says, give peace a chance. Just give conflict a chance. Give people a chance. People don't have the words to choose sometimes to express themselves. So feed it to them. Say, is this how you feel? Tell me, is this how you feel? And if they say, no, I did this with my grandson who was 5. His brother bothered him. And I went through a litany of things to get him to tell me what was bothering him. Was it what he said? No. Was it what you said? No. Was it that he cried? No. Was it that you cried? No. I went through a whole thing and I got to one thing and I said, was it what he said? Was it that he got angry with you? And he said, yes. He didn't know. And we're dealing with trauma. People are so traumatized. This is just a fact of our life. So love it. Love people and their trauma. Love people and their agendas. Love people for being all messy. Love them. And if you're, and those of you listening and those of you who want to listen more, take your love and just, it's basic stuff. Ask them how they feel. And if they tell you, no, I don't feel that way. Well, how do you feel? Or I'm sorry you feel that way. You know, if you take conflict personally, you'll never be able to handle it. Don't take it personally. You're not the cause. You're not the reason somebody is angry. You may remind them of something, but you didn't create it. And people can, if you present me with some kind of dysfunctional thing, I'm going to handle it one way. Victoria, you're going to handle it another way. That's just how it is. So what's wrong with that? People are like that. Just know that we're not machines. And even when people tell you no, a lot of times they really mean yes. They're just scared. People are scared. So if you're one of those people who don't have to be scared, if you can be one of those people who have enough self-awareness that you don't have to get knocked down your knees when somebody looks at you funny or they don't like what you do, then be this person who is a peacemaker and ask those questions. So I would say, take a situation that you have now currently, and one, doesn't have to be 10, doesn't have to be 5, just take one. And it doesn't have to be the most complicated one. If you want that one, fine. It doesn't have to be. And dissect it. Try to listen in to where things are wrong. Listen into where the person came from. See if you can connect a dot that tells you why somebody is acting a certain way. Come with curiosity. Even if you know this person really, really well, there's something you don't know. There's always something you don't know, because I don't know everything about myself either. So how are you going to know everything about me? You can't. I can't know everything about you either. So come with curiosity and love. And I can promise you, you're going to find something where you can make a little bit of peace. Please don't run away from conflict. Don't run towards it if you can. Don't run away from it. When I've interviewed, how much more time do we have?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. So we talk, is there anything you want me to focus on that I haven't?
We actually have a little bit more than that. I just would like to add something that you said between the fear and love, because what came to me a while ago was that everything everybody does in this world is to get love. Every misguided action is they're trying to fill that space. So the power that we have in choosing to share that energy of love is far more powerful than words can be. Okay. Oh, Emily posted something she wants you to share. So yay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because people do need to know how to talk about things that don't feel good, but generally they don't feel good because you don't feel good about. And so you can't handle someone else's disapproval because you're already there by yourself so much more. And so learning to love yourself, like the Bible said, love others as you love yourself. We're not taught to love ourselves, and we're not taught how to do that. We're taught more often that you're a piece of garbage and you came in this world as a sinful thing and you're awful. And don't say what you do well because that's boastful. And
Exactly.
So we're reaching.
Exactly. You know how many people, I wore my hair really curly for a long time because my mother likes it that way. And my mother's 99. And I look at her like she knows everything. And she has a really good eye. She's really talented with things. She's got good color. She liked my hair curly. And so I'm 70. I went along with her for a long time wearing my hair curly, or hearing her tell me I should wear it curly. And you have such natural this and such a you know what? I made a decision that I'm 70. I'm going to be 71. Don't tell anybody. And I decided to wear my hair straight. I cannot tell you how many people at the bar mitzvah told me how great I looked. And you know what I said? I know. Because it was in here all along.
Yeah. It
came out now. But it was always in here that I wanted to look like Bridget Bardot or somebody. You remember her?
Oh, yeah.
And my mother turned around in the car and my daughter heard it. And she said, I think you look prettier the other way. Now, my mother certainly is dealing with something, right? The dynamic between a mother and a daughter, just understand this. There is competition. It is there. It's an archetype. We're not going to get rid of all these things, but we sure can work with them. I looked at my mother and I said, thank you. I appreciate it, but right now, this is how I'm going.
Yeah.
And my mother's probably not comfortable with the fact that other people don't agree with her, like all the other people that said I look good. Not just me, all the other people. But you take these things into consideration when you're dealing with something. And we don't have to snap at people, because the snapping and the hurt, when you hurt others, you're hurting yourself. You know how you feel when you yell at somebody or when you get mad. We're at a pivotal point now. We got to be real honest. It is a time to expose honesty. And Emily, who works with me, is in the green room, and she just reminded me we're going to be doing more specific things. This is general, but we're going to be doing more, specific things like how do you handle your partner? How do you work with your children? More specific, on point things, because they can be different. How you handle conflict with your children can be very different with how you handle with your partner. On some level, some of them overlap, but on some level, they're going to be different. And people have different energy. We have people who are more of the dreamer types. We have people that are more of the connector types, and we have more people that are more of the analytical type. And those energies vary. And I have a whole thing with that. So how somebody communicates as a dreamer is going to be one way, and how we communicate with a dreamer can piss people off, because dreamers are out there, right? They don't always show up on time. They can start a million projects at once and never get done. Well, how do you communicate with a dreamer when you're not that? And vice versa. So there's a lot of other tools and strategies. But what I'm begging you all to do is take conflict under your wing, because we all are, our society is going to depend on it. It's time to make nice. It's time to find that camaraderie.
Marilyn, where are you going to be doing these Zooms? Will they be in
Emily?
But where can we find
send you? Yeah,
in Circle? Our Circle?
We can talk.
Okay. Hello, Emily.
Yeah, hi everyone. We'll be doing these Zooms on Zoom. We haven't officiated the dates yet, but they will be posted all over Marilyn's social media, so keep an eye out for that. They will mostly be on Facebook and her Instagram, but largely on Facebook. So keep an eye out for that, because those will be coming very soon.
And let me say one more thing. It is okay to be uncomfortable. If I leave you with anything, it's okay to be uncomfortable. Go into that one relationship, dissect it. It could be any relationship. It could be somebody at the grocery store that every time you go in there, they give you the evil eye. How are you going into the grocery store? I mean, take a look. It's not about blame. It's just about figuring it out and finding a way to make nice.
And you were talking about too, just again, a lot of what I teach is about the power of love. And I'm a smiler. I've always been a smiler. I was the one that gave all the immunizations in the office as a nurse. And one little girl came in and her mom said, "Do you know what she calls you?" And it was like, "Oh, I don't really want to hear this." And she said, "She calls you the smiley one." And I went, "Oh." Fast forward a few years ago, I'm in the grocery store, probably a holiday. I'm weaving through the baskets by the checkout, trying to get to the other side of the store. And it's a good day. I'm feeling good, And I looked up and this man just smiled at me genuinely. And it was like it hit me. It was so lovely. And I thought, that's what I've been offering. I didn't know, but how that felt. And so it can be just little things like that.
Absolutely.
We can be the givers of a higher vibration just by offering a smile. And
that's it. And you know what? If you're somebody out there who doesn't necessarily want to engage in a specific conflict right now, just do what Victoria said. Just walk around and be nice.
Yeah, just
that will take care of people's conflict and you won't even know it. You're going to take care of somebody's conflict that they had that day that they don't even know you, just because you gave them a smile. Just do that, please.
Yeah, it was powerful. And again, I did it forever, but I had no idea how it might feel on a day when I wasn't bummed out or anything. I was feeling pretty good. And it was just so genuine. It was like, wow, this is a powerful thing. Marilyn, would you tell us a bit about your books?
So I want people to be visible. And I want people to understand people who they don't understand all the time. So the first one was men. And I interviewed a lot of men about their emotional journey, their awakenings, how they parent, how they husband, how they don't do any of those things, but do something else. And it was so interesting because I only had one man tell me he didn't want to do it. And people said to me, "How did you get all those men to tell you their story?" All I did was ask them. I mean, it wasn't hard. I had to stop myself because I didn't want a book of 50 stories. I wanted good ones, but I didn't. And every man has a good story. Everybody has a good story. If we practice on just listening to people's stories, that'll be good too. And then twins, my mother's a twin, and twins teach a lot about conflict resolution. They get it. They know how to stay twins. They know how to stay siblings most of the time without, not talking to each other. They don't do that very well. And I interviewed too many twins, but they teach sibling rivalry. They teach parenting. They teach so many things that we all could mirror that. And that was fat. And then millennials, because obviously there was a lot of conflict around millennials and millennials wanting to be even mentored. And then our generation not wanting to mentor them and all of that. But millennials have a lot to offer, as do all groups. And then people impacted by opioid addiction. I mean, God knows. I interviewed people from both parents, siblings, people using. I engaged. I followed some gentleman through his ups and his downs, through the time of his substance use. I mean, it's when you listen to people, you can understand how you could love them even though you don't agree. I mean, there were plenty of people I interviewed with substance use disorder, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You do that? You had to do that? But yet, when you listen to their story, you understand where they're coming from. You can't be angry with them. And so that started me on a whole new world. And then the Black fathers really got me, because they have been criticized and demoralized, and they don't deserve it. In fact, I have wanted, based on listening into these Black daddies, because a lot of them have substance use issues, a lot of them lost their children, a lot of them spent a lot of time in prison. I think that they're a community of men we haven't paid enough attention to. I'm about empowering people. I want to hear your story, and I want to vocalize that story. And I want everybody to be comfortable with themselves and everybody's story. And conflict is keeping us apart. It's turning the light off. And addiction is about, the opposite of addiction is connection. So you can only imagine, if we don't understand these conflicts, these conflicting things, we are going to have more shootings. So we got to take it down. We got to take it down. In Victoria, you got to keep doing the love stuff.
Yeah, it's a big part of
it. People take it as, oh, yeah, I love, but they don't feel it. They know it, they think it, but they're not landing it.
I take them to the process of, and for me, it's like that feeling I get when I hold that grandbaby to my neck and feel them breathe on me. That love that swells your heart. And then my intention, because that's, again, our empowerment. We are so in alignment, Marilyn. It's not even, it's
Do you do heart math?
I don't. I know about it, but that's, I think I kind of do in just a different way. And it's the power of our intention is another thing that really came home to me. And that power I have to then send that heart swelling feeling to someone or to a situation. It goes, because energy goes and it keeps going. And I have that power. We all have that power.
And you can feel it when somebody walks into a room. Yes. I mean, if you doubt it for a second, everybody in here walk into a room.
Yeah, and it heals us. So before we finish, the name of your books, that's what I would like.
The series is in just one afternoon, listening into the hearts of, because when we just take a little afternoon, that's all it takes, right? Just a little afternoon, you can get to know somebody, right? You just, a little smile doesn't take long. So when we listen into the heart of someone, we can get them. We hear their story. And so I am doing a series. And so those 5 books are done. And I have more in the hopper. I mean, I have, unfortunately, the stories don't change. So I have, in just one afternoon, listening to the hearts of divorcees, because we pass a lot of judgment on, let's say, women who leave a child behind. But maybe she left that child behind because she was being mutilated. We need to understand people. So divorcees, families who have lost a child, because they don't talk about it. They don't talk to themselves. Husbands and wives don't talk about it, and they're afraid to talk about it in the outside world. And I'm around a lot of people who've lost somebody. So that, and then the greatest generation, which are 80, 90, now 100-year-olds, because we're living longer, artists. So I have others in the can, and I want to do women that have been raped, so people understand, listening into a heart of. But when I do these books, I also do panel discussions. Again, people learn differently. Some people will read, some people will listen to their story. And I want these stories out in any way, shape, or form.
That's lovely and so needed in the world. Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us today, coming on and sharing a tidbit of what you do in this world. And I am so excited to just follow you more and see more.
Likewise.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to share with you again, this is Grandmother's Garden and the Tending Our Roots series. and listening to different grandmothers throughout the country, the world, share their wisdom. And we have wisdom to share. And one of the ways that we can be there and help one another heal this world is by listening to one another and by sharing our wisdom. We have created Grandmother's Garden, and that's a platform where we can come together in unity and help heal one another. There is some need for fundraising for this platform because various parts of the platform cost us money. And so we are going to have at the end a couple of ways you can donate or join the platform, particularly if you have a business. We have 2 different levels you can join in at to share your business offerings there, as well as classes. And there are many free things you can join as a seed, and that's absolutely free. We want you to come at any level you're able to come into, because this is how we're going to heal the world. As the Hopi saying said, listening to, just as what Marilyn shared so beautifully, listening is a superpower, and listening heals. I had lunch the other day with a couple of gals, and I was just irritated when I got there with something that was going on, and I wasn't going to share it. They're friends. They're not the closest of friends. So finally I did. And I mean, I was really in an uproar inside when I got there, and I just talked about it. That was it. No advice was given. I just shared it. And I felt so different when I left. It was like I let go of some of it. So just listening to one another, again, we offer a Zoom every day of the week to listen to one another. And it's listed on the site there, so you can go and check that out. We are a powerful group that is growing. Our platform is a baby, and so bear with us in some of the technicalities. It might not work exactly right all the time. We are getting that worked out. But I invite you to join with other grandmothers, bring your wisdom, glean from their wisdom, and grow together. And together, we will heal the world. Thank you so much for joining us for the Tending Our Roots broadcast. This is day 9, and yes, 9. I believe maybe it's day 10. It's day 10, I think. Or maybe sorry. It is important that we get our word out. So share this if you think anyone could benefit from this. Share this video that you're watching. Share the idea. And it's day 9. Thank you, Mayana. Tomorrow is our solstice finale, and it's big. This solstice is big. There's a whole lot of growth to be had here. So I invite you to join us. Go back and on YouTube, look at all of them and grow from everyone. Grandmother Gail will be here tomorrow, Gail Crossmos, and she is powerful. I encourage you to come listen to that one. Thank you again for joining us. We are the Global Grandmothers Council Network, and this is Grandmother's Garden, Tending Our Roots.